There's one number hidden in today's AI news that, once you see it, makes the other four headlines look like background static. 5 stories hit your feed, each demanding to be the one that changes everything. For won't matter by Friday. One quietly reset what intelligence costs to make, and almost nobody led with it. Stay with me, because to spot it you first have to learn how to tell expensive noise from a real signal. Here's the supply and demand frame I use every morning, and it cuts through almost everything. In any market, price moves on 2 things, a change in supply or a change in demand. Everything else is noise, sentiment, positioning, somebody repricing what already exists. Apply that single test to today's AI headlines and the pile collapses fast. Most of what trended today changed neither the supply of intelligence nor the demand for it. Walk the feed with me. $1 trillion chip giant sold off. The biggest American AI lab inched closer to a record public offering. A frontier model sat dark for a 5th straight day after the US government pulled it. Google's next flagship leaked ahead of a late June launch. And a Chinese lab dropped a new model that almost no Western outlet bothered to put at the top of the page. All 5 screamed for the same scarce resource, your attention. That's the real competition here, and the loudest story is almost never the most important one. So let's grade them one by one, against the only question that counts. Did this change what intelligence costs to make, or what the world is willing to pay for it? Anything else is theater. Let's start. Story 1. The sell-off. Today the chip complex dropped. The dominant AI chip maker fell more than 2%, while the big names in networking, memory and accelerators all slid together. The headlines called it an AI wobble. But look closer. That chip maker is still worth around $5 trillion, the most valuable company on Earth, and AI infrastructure spending is still projected to climb from roughly $600 billion this year toward trillions by decade's end. A 2% pullback after a long run is profit-taking, not a verdict. Story 2. The IPO race. The 2 leading American labs are sprinting toward public listings, one reportedly eyeing a valuation approaching $1 trillion, the other targeting a late-year debut. Enormous numbers. Genuinely historic. But ask the test question. Does a private company selling shares to the public create any new intelligence? No. It reprices a thing that already exists. That's a capital event, not a capability event. Story 3 is stranger, and here's where it gets interesting. For the first time ever, a government, not a company, reached in and switched off a frontier AI model. Anthropic's most advanced systems, Fable 5 and Mythos 5, went live, and within 3 days a US export control order forced them dark worldwide. Days later they're still offline. That tells you something profound about power. Hold that thought, it matters at the end. Story 4. The leak. Google's next flagship is expected within weeks, with talk of a 2 million token context window and a new deep reasoning mode. Impressive on paper. But it hasn't shipped. You cannot run it, price it, or build on it. A rumored model is a promise, and promises don't move the supply curve until they're code you can actually call. File it under hype, for now, which leaves story 5. The one with the fewest headlines and the most weight. A Chinese lab called Z.AI released an open-weights model named GLM 5.2. No glossy keynote, no $1 trillion valuation attached. Just weights, posted for anyone on Earth to download. And buried in that quiet release is the number that, once you see it, makes the other 4 look like background noise. Step back to the framework. The entire AI economy rests on one variable almost nobody talks about. The unit cost of intelligence. What it costs to get a hard task done correctly by a machine. Every valuation, every chip order, every IPO is ultimately a bet on where that number is heading. So the story that actually matters is whichever one moves that cost. Only one of today's 5 does. Run the test on the sell-off again. Did chip stocks falling 2% change what it costs to run a model? Not by a cent. The same data centers draw the same power, and serve the same demand tomorrow. Stock prices are opinions about the future, repriced minute to minute. They're the thermometer, not the weather. Loud, tradable, and for our one question, pure noise. Same verdict on the IPO race. $1 billion listing changes who owns the upside. It doesn't make the model 1 cent cheaper to run. And the government shutting off a model? That's a story about control and risk, hugely important politically, but it raised the cost and friction of using that system, it didn't lower it. So far, 4 stories, 0 movement on the one number. But the 5th breaks the pattern entirely. Here's the tension every analyst lives with. The biggest stories, the $1 trillion valuations, the dramatic government order, are the ones that fill the screen and feel urgent. The story that actually rewires the industry is usually quiet, technical, and easy to scroll right past. Today's signal is exactly that kind of story. So let me show you the number that the headlines walk straight by. GLM 5.2 is a mixture of experts model with roughly 744 billion parameters and a 1 million token context window, released under an MIT license, meaning anyone anywhere can download it, run it, and build on it for free. No subscription gate, no foreign national restriction, no off-switch a government can reach. The weights are simply out in the world now. That fact alone separates it from every closed model in today's headlines. Now the number. On several long-horizon coding benchmarks, the grueling multi-step engineering tasks that map closest to real work, GLM 5.2 reportedly matches or beats one of America's flagship models, while running at roughly 1/6 the cost. 1/6. Enterprise access starts near $13 a month. That's not a better model story. That's a collapse in the price of frontier-grade intelligence, and cost is the whole game. When the price of a capability falls by 6 times, you don't get a little more of it, you get a flood. Things too expensive to automate yesterday become trivial tomorrow. Whole categories of software that never penciled out suddenly do. This is the same curve that took computing from million-dollar mainframes to the phone in your pocket, and onto a chatbot answering you for fractions of a cent. Each time the unit cost cracks, the map of what's possible redraws underneath it. Now connect it back to story 3. A government pulled a closed American model off the grid in 3 days, because closed models have an owner and an off switch. Open weights have neither. Once GLM 5.2 is downloaded onto thousands of machines, no agency, no company, no order can ever recall it. The cheapest frontier intelligence on the planet is now also the one nobody can switch off. That is the decision that quietly changed the whole board. So what does it mean for you? If you build anything, the cost of the smartest tools is falling faster than the headlines admit, and the floor underneath you is now open, free, and impossible to take away. If you invest, watch unit cost, not valuations. The company with the single best model matters far less than the direction the price of intelligence is heading. And if you just watch the news, learn the one test and you'll never be fooled by a loud headline again. Supply, demand, or noise. Remember the promise from the start. The one story that reset the price of intelligence. Now you've seen it. A quiet open weights model, frontier-grade coding at 1/6 the cost, with weights no government can ever pull back. For stories where the thermometer, one moved the weather. The trillion-dollar headlines will fade, and this 1/6 number will still be compounding long after. If this reframed your feed, like, subscribe, and send it to someone still doom-scrolling the noise. That's all for today. If you found this useful, like, subscribe, and share it with someone who'd care. Catch you next time.